A-League Access brought to you by Barry Plant.
Hello and welcome to A-League Access, the show that talks about all things A-League and everything to do with the World Game in Australia. My name is Bernd Merkel, thank you for joining us. And tonight it's an absolute pleasure to be joined by our special guest from the Brunswick City Soccer Club, Jesse Makarounas. Jesse, welcome to the program.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
So far there have been some highs and lows when it comes to season 2021 of the A-League. What has unfortunately stood out, for example, during last weekend's games between Adelaide and Western United and also at the Sydney Derby, is the VAR. Some say the VAR is destroying the heart and soul of football. Is that a fair call or a little dramatic, Jesse?
I think it depends on what situation you're talking about, but I think definitely it's taking the focus away from the game a whole lot. And if it's not doing what it's intended to do while it's there, which is, make fair and obvious decisions, I just think that it shouldn't be there anymore, no.
Yeah, when the FIFA introduced it, they had this slogan, maximum benefit with minimum interference. Now you feel like it's exactly the opposite. So do you think we should completely get rid of it or just maybe use it for, is it a goal or not? What's your opinion on that?
I think to be used for goal line technology, I think they have other technology for goal line technology as well, but I think clear and obvious offside calls are good, but not when we're talking millimetres or someone's shoulder or someone's shirt. That's taking it a bit too far, yeah. Yeah,
and in my opinion, there's also a lot of emotions taken away from soccer now for football. If you're sitting there and waiting, is it a goal or not? I mean, at the moment in Europe in particular, we don't have spectators, but it's a bit sad. And hopefully they will come up with better decisions soon because, as you said, it's really a problem. Let's come back to the A-League a little bit more in general. So you played in your past for 3 A-League clubs, Perth, Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United. So which club secretly do you keep your fingers crossed for?
I still live in Melbourne now, so obviously I support Victory because I'm here, I'm only around the corner from the stadium as well. But Perth's my hometown team, so I always secretly have an eye on Perth to see how they're going, and got a few good friends that play at Perth still, so definitely keep my eye on them, but I don't really have one team.
Oh, good answer. Well, Perth still with a chance, but struggling to go to the finals. I guess for Melbourne Victory it will be very challenging. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think for Victory it's been a very tough season, and I guess maybe they're in a process of a rebuild now. Yeah. Tony Popovic coming in. I think there's a lot of the boys in the league that are out of contract, so maybe they'll be signing a lot of new players. But Perth's having a decent season, and I think Richard Garcia's first year involved, in charge actually, sorry. I think Perth will end up doing well this season.
Well, you mentioned already the big news. Tony Popovic will become the new coach for Melbourne Victory for the new season. And he also was coach of one of his former clubs, Perth Glory. So when you played for Melbourne Victory at that time, he had this historical win with the Asian Champions League with Western Sydney Wanderers. Do you think that he can get Melbourne Victory back on track, as we said, 2 disappointing seasons?
Yeah, I think now the time where he was at Western Sydney, where they won the Champions League, he wasn't a proven coach yet. But now he is. He's done really well at Glory. He's spent a bit of time in Greece, although that came to a short end. But that doesn't take away for, obviously, he's a really good coach, and I think that's what Victory, the fans are looking for, some stability. And I think he's going to make some good signings and hopefully build a good team, good, strong, competitive team for next year.
Well, let's keep the fingers crossed for the Melbourne Victory fans, but we also want to look at Melbourne City because the Melbourne City fans are really dying to finally get a title. So they are top of the ladder and a very superb Jamie McLaren this season. Do you think it's a now or never season for Melbourne City to win the title?
Well, I think, look, if they don't do it this year, then it's going to be tough for them. They've got a really good team and they're top of the table now. Yeah, I just think that, personally, I think it'll be between them and Central Coast this year.
Yeah.
But they're looking really good and they've got a lot of good attacking players, and Jamie Makarounas obviously scoring a bag full of goals. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be hard to take this season away from them, yeah.
And you mentioned Central Coast Mariners. It's a bit of a miracle, right? Last season they had the wooden spoon. Now they are up there competing with Melbourne City. So do you think it's all about the coach, Alan Stadic, or what do you think is the reason that they suddenly have this high jump from so disappointing last season and now really one of the top teams?
Yeah, I mean, it must be. Like, I've never played under him, but
Yeah.
you can see that he's put a really good system in place. One of my ex-teammates, Oli Bozanic, is back there now. Spent a few years overseas, and he's really been a rock for him. You can tell he's kind of controlling the game, and he's been a big presence for them. So I think a few good signings and obviously a good structure from the coach has done them wonders, yeah.
And we mentioned Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, of course. Western United is one of the new teams, as well as MacArthur FC. What do you think about these two expansion teams of the A-League?
Yeah, I think that's what the A-League needs. Not going down the rabbit hole of relegation or promotion, but yeah, I think it's been great. MacArthur's set up in an area of Sydney that didn't have a team before, and Western United is really looking to take that western area of Melbourne as well. So two big demographics that didn't have a team, they now do. So let's hope they can really pull the community together and get some good crowds at the games. And yeah, like I said, that's what the A-League needs to expand, yeah.
Thank you, Jesse. We also wanted to talk a bit more about your personal career, but we just need to take a quick break and we'll be back with more A-League access afterwards. Welcome back. You're watching A-League Access. As mentioned at the top of the program, we have a special guest with us in the studio, Jesse Makarounas. Jesse was born in Darwin and was a part of the AIS football program before making his professional debut with Perth Glory in 2012. In 2013, Jesse went to Melbourne Victory and then moved on to Adelaide United in 2016. Now Jesse is playing his trade with NPL 2 side Brunswick City Soccer Club in Victoria. Jesse, firstly, thanks for joining us. So how did your love for football begin?
I think it began at a young age, probably through my father. My father's always loved sports in general, but especially football. I have an older brother who's 2 years older, and my dad was the coach of his team. So I used to go along to trainings and play with them. Obviously, throughout the years, my dad has been a really big motivation for me. And I mean, I guess that's how it started. As far as professional football went, I just kind of went through a pathway that a lot of young Australian boys did go.
Yeah.
But I guess when we're talking about grassroots, it was because of my father, yeah.
So is your brother still playing?
No, my brother, it's a hard question. I think he was still playing at one point, but he was an academic, so he kind of got to an age where he started concentrating on his studies a lot more, and I was the opposite. So I was always, trying to get out of school to play. So, yeah.
So, and when you're saying out of school, and football is becoming more and more popular amongst the kids in Australia. So, what advice would you have for children that are thinking about becoming a professional football player? If you look back at your career so far, what would you do again, or what would you not do again?
It's a good question for me personally, because I stopped playing professionally at probably a younger age than most. Yeah. So I'd say to them, concentrate on your studies. Make sure you have that backup plan in place, because when you get to 30 years old and you don't have a backup plan in place, it makes things a lot harder than if you did concentrate in school and did study something. Footballers have a bit of downtime, and a lot of friends that I know, I didn't personally, I wish I did, but a lot of friends I know that still play, did some kind of degree or something part-time, and it just sets you up really nicely for when you finish, you can transition into life after football well.
So you were part in WA of, as we said, of the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sport, so part of the Excellent Football of Excellence Centre, which was then shut down in 2017 because then the FFA said, okay, we want to give the responsibility now to the clubs. Do you agree with that? Was that the right step?
Financially, I think it probably would have been pretty costly. You know, we went at a young age to the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra, and we all lived there on site. You know, we got everything taken care of for us, and we did our schooling there. We had football on site. We had everything there on site for us. So, look, I think it's sad to see that program go because it did breed. If you look back at a lot of the players, good, you know, even Socceroos now came from the AIS program. But I can see the thinking of, you know, there's big 10 or 12 now big professional clubs. They, you know, I guess have the responsibility to breed some youngsters to bring through to their senior teams as well. So I can see both sides of it, but it is sad to see that program go. Yeah.
I mean, you already mentioned also Socceroos. I mean, you were a young international player for Australia, so you played 19 games for the Joeys, for the under-17, and then another 9 games for the young Socceroos, the under-20. What was your experience there? Any exciting travel stories?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're playing for the national team at that age, I went to Mexico for the World Cup. I think that was 2011 we went to Mexico for the World Cup. You know, not many kids that age get to travel as much as we did, so it was a big eye-opener. I got a lot of life experience in general from that. And, you know, being a young footballer wanting to go professional and being able to go and play against the best players of your age around the world, you can't ask for anything more than that. So a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of us that, you know, realised that boys, I still remember we were at the World Cup and there was a player in Brazil, Lucas Piazon, who just signed at Chelsea. And, you know, for us it was like, oh my God, this guy's just signed at Chelsea, you know, and we're going to be playing against him. So, yeah, like really good stories. I was mentioning before we had a chat, we played in Indonesia against Indonesia, and there was, you know, like probably 60 or 70,000 people there in the stadium, and there was a traffic jam on the bus of people trying to leave the stadium. And, you know, as a young kid, you're like, you know, it's just like a different world, really. So.
Yeah. I think that's what we should aim for in Australia, to get 60,000 to a Joey's game. But yeah, when you were a young international for Australia, did you have that dream to become a Socceroo, I expect? And were you then very disappointed that you never made it to the national team?
I think every young player has that dream. I mean, you idolise the guys that are playing. I was lucky enough to play with, you know, a lot of boys that did go on and play or were current Socceroos at the time. I mean, I don't have any regrets about my own personal career. You know, I'm content where I am and what I've achieved. But yeah, I mean, as a young player, definitely, you know, I used to watch I still remember John Aloisi's penalty to go to the World Cup, you know, and I remember the feeling at home when that happened. So yeah, really good memories.
So you yourself turned 27 recently. Happy belated birthday. And yeah, we said that you left the A-League about 4 years ago. So now that you are in an age where people say that's the best age for a football player, do you still have the ambition to get back to A-League level, or that dream to play A-League again one day, or is that gone?
Look, I'm happy where I am right now. I'm happy playing for Brunswick City. You know, that's a hard question. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I'd really have the motivation to play A-League anymore, but I enjoyed my time there. I still enjoy watching it. A lot of friends that still do play, but I'm happy where I am now.
And so you're definitely motivated, always giving your best, right? And then we'll see how it will turn out.
Yeah.
Before we come to Brunswick, your club now, so you had in the A-League the experience to be coached by two of the most famous coaches in Australia, Ange Postecoglou with Melbourne Victory, and also Kevin Muscat. What was your experience with those two?
Well, when I signed the Victory, it was Ange. I had a really good experience with him. I think that maybe Muskie took a lot of the things that he implemented from Ange, but two different man management styles. Had, you know, much more of a personable relationship with Muskie. Not that I had anything wrong with Ange, but it's just the way it went.
Yeah.
But couldn't speak any more highly about both of them. And also want to mention Guillermo more when I was at Adelaide. What a player he was back in the day. And I remember he used to join in some sessions with us and play. And he's probably the best player at the park at the age he was. So that's a good one to mention as well. Yeah.
And your club now, Brunswick City Soccer Club, you're top of the ladder. I know it's very early in the season, after 6 match days, but is that the ultimate goal to win the championship this season and to get promoted?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the club's got aspirations to be promoted to NPL 1, and they've assembled a really good team. I think that's got we've got the hope to get promoted, and we've definitely got the talent to. We've got off to a good start of the season, but we're just concentrating game by game. I think that's what we need, just to really go heads down and not get too far ahead of ourselves with the early stage we are in the season that we're going to get promoted, when ultimately that's the goal for us all, but we're trying to stay grounded at the moment.
And to have a player like you in the team, is your coach asking you now and then for advice, or does he see you as just one amongst all the others?
He asks me for advice sometimes,
yeah.
But I don't like to, be put as better than everyone else. I like to feel like I like everyone else to see me at their level, and I like to be a bit of a motivational figure for everyone, someone who they can look up to and maybe help them improve their game as well.
So, a question about your family. So your dad is Greek, your mum is Italian, you were born in Australia. What is the national team that the family goes for?
We all spent a lot of our whole lives in Australia, so Australia is the national team that we go for. My partner at home now, she's Italian, so when she's around it's Italy, but for myself it's Australia, yeah.
All right. Well, Jesse, you certainly had an interesting career, and we look forward to hearing more about your successes with Brunswick City. If you were interested to see Jesse playing live, the next NPL game is on Saturday the 8th of May against Kingston City. And we will be back with more A-League access after the break. Welcome back to A-League access. And now we're moving on to the upcoming games for round 20 of the A-League season, where we start on Saturday with Newcastle Jets versus Sydney FC at 5 p.m. at McDonald Jones Stadium. Will the Jets lift off in the bottom of the ladder here?
Look, my tip's going to be for Sydney this week. I think even though it's in Newcastle, they've got the, they've got the motivation to do well.
Yeah.
They're chasing, the top of the ladder. They've got some really good players, and I think they're going to be able to get the job done.
Do you think Sydney FC at the moment is a little bit, underrated in the ladder, given the quality of the players and also Lafondra coming back in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't see how Lafondra and Bobo are going to play together. They both, play the same position, but they've got a lot of firepower and a lot of good players. So, look, they've been there a lot in recent years, up the top, and they've got that experience which helps. So I think in the end they're going to be challenging for the ultimate prize.
Yeah, and that's the system in Australia, right? You can have a average season and then just fire in the finals. Yeah. Later at 7:10, it's the Battle of the West. Western Sydney Wanderers play Western United at Bankwest. Both teams need a win to keep their season alive. Who will win this one?
I'm going to go for Western Sydney at home. I think last week the derby win was really big for them, and I think they're going to get the job done.
Yeah, it was really great, and also with the supporters now back in the stadium, I agree with you. On Sunday, Melbourne City here in Melbourne hosts Brisbane at Amy Park. City have been on fire lately. Will Brisbane pour cold water on their little hopes?
I think it's going to be tough for Brisbane. City's looking really dangerous. This their first year really where they can, really go on and challenge for the title. I think if they're not going to get it done this year, then it's going to be tough for them. Yeah. So I'm going to tip City.
Yeah. Well, I think Brisbane is in for a surprise, so I go with a draw. On the same day, Perth Glory take on, so both your former teams, Perth Glory take on Melbourne Victory at NIB. Can Perth keep their very slim finals hopes alive against a revived Victory?
I I'm going to go for Glory at home. I think NIB is a hard place to go. Yeah, a lot of travel. They've got the shed down there, which is always good to play in front of. And I think it's a bit too late for Victory. So I think Glory's got more to play for, and I think they're gonna take the 3 points.
So when you were playing for Victory, those flights, I guess, to Perth and on the other end to Wellington, how tiring was that?
Going here from when I was playing for Victory, going to Perth was not so bad because I could see my family when I got there. So it was a bit of motivation. But when I was playing at Perth, the trip to Wellington was a real hard one. It was
the like long distance
derby. The whole day travelling, and we used to go a few days early when we went to Wellington. So it was a bit of a break, yeah.
On Wednesday, we have Brisbane Roar against Central Coast at 7:05. This game will be an intriguing one. Will Central Coast keep surprising in this one?
Yeah, I think Brisbane's always a hard place to go and play, but I think Central Coast has been good all season. They're looking strong, they're looking dangerous. So even though Brisbane's been doing well as well, I think Central Coast will go and take the 3 points.
Also here, I'm going with a draw. Brisbane is quite a good team this season, so let's see. And finally, Perth Glory then take on Western United at 9:10 p.m. at NIB Stadium. Western United have been good on the road. Will they upset the Glory in Perth?
Oof, that's a tough one. I might go for a draw there, really. It's going to be a tough game. Both teams have been doing well, so I'm going to sit on the fence like you this time.
Well, I go with a win for Perth Glory in that match. So, Jesse, we're coming to the end of our show, but I have a question. You played with a lot of really good players, in particular Melbourne Victory, Adelaide, like Mark Milligan, Bessart Berisha, Isaias, Archie Thompson. Are you still in contact with these players, or who was the most inspiring one for your career?
Yeah, I mean, still got a good relationship with a lot of the names you've mentioned. To be honest, one that you didn't mention was Lynn Miller. Now, unfortunately, Lynn Miller's passed away from cancer, but when I was at Glory, I was really young, and he was like different level. I'd never seen a player as good as him, so I definitely had to mention Liam. He was really, really good player. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to play with so many good players. Even Mathieu Delpierre, he spent a lot of time in Germany playing. When you play with players like that, you really see the difference of level. He played his whole career in really big teams in Germany and had such a great career. And when he came here, it was like so strong and just different level.
Yeah, a very, very strong defender. I mean, I know that from my time back in Germany.
Yeah.
So, players, Archie Thompson, you mentioned Fahid Ben Khalfala, you're still in contact with him. So he's back in Victoria playing, right?
Yeah, so he's the coach of Nunawading, Fahid. Yeah. When we versed him in pre-season, he actually put the boots on and was playing centre back, so that was a bit funny. But yes, a lot of the boys I've played with still live in Melbourne now. So like I said, good relationship with all of them. Archie, I'm not sure what Archie's doing now. I did play a friendly game against him. He was playing for Essendon Royals. So, but yeah, so many good players. That Guy Finkler as well. He's another one, just so technically gifted and such a great player. Yeah.
The Brazilian one, he's back in Brazil now, right?
Yeah, I think he was in. Yeah, I think he might have been in Lithuania or somewhere. But he could possibly be back in Brazil now.
Yeah. And of course, a question that all the football supporters are thinking about is the Euro Super League, right? I mean, it came up last week. For 48 hours, these big teams made the decision, we're going to do our own club. And then suddenly, 48 hours, it was all gone. So my question to you, are you worried about the future of the game that we love so much, that it will be more and more affected, and there's more and more impact by people who just have a lot of money and maybe don't care really so much about the basis and the supporters?
Look, I think you saw from the uproar of all the fans that it wasn't going to go down well. So look, I personally, I don't think it's a really good idea, just taking the clubs away from their roots and going off to form your own league. It doesn't sit right with me, and it didn't sit right with a lot of the fans, I think. So I'd be surprised if it did end up going ahead. Yeah. But I mean, you never know with football. I guess there's football, so nothing would surprise me. We'll say that.
Do you have a club in Europe, be it either in Italy, France, Germany, England, that you support?
Since I was young, I always supported Arsenal. Back when Thierry Henry was playing there, he was one of my childhood heroes. So I still support Arsenal. But
going through some tough
times
here.
We'll say that, yeah. Exactly.
Well, but at least the EuroLeague looks promising for them, right?
Yeah.
So let's keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, that's all for this week's edition of A-League Access. A big thanks to our special guest, Jesse Makarounas. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Bernd Merkel. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Have a good weekend and bye for now.
A-League Access brought to you by Barry Plant.